Okay, I think we'll start now. We'll just wait for a few more people to enter. So welcome everyone to our In Conversation with Simone Mathews. I'm Michael Alsop. For those of you who don't know me, I am an interior designer and educator here at ISCD. And we welcome Simone to our chat. She is an ISCD graduate. She's also an amazing interior designer. And she's also the leading holiday property expert. So, hey, Simone.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for that great intro.
Yeah, of course. So thank you for joining us today. We've also got Smita, who'll be popping in and out. I'm not sure if Smita's up on camera yet. She may not be. That's okay. But Smita, she's our course advisor, and she'll be working behind the scenes. So if you have any questions or anything along the way, just pop them in the live chat box that you'll see in the Zoom menu, and we'll get to those questions throughout the chat. So for those who aren't aware or who don't know much about ISCD, ISCD is 37 years old. We have over 5,600 students, and we love the design industry, and we love helping people transition from everyday life, from school, whatever, into the design field through diplomas, certificates, or short courses. So today we'll be talking to Simone about her experience at ISCD. We'll also be talking about building your brand and building your company, and then finally diving into some of her amazing projects. So I think we may as well get started and talk about ISCD and how your experience was as a student with us.
Yeah, let's get started.
Yeah.
So do you want me to start, or are you going to ask me a question?
Let's start with the first question. What chose you to study at ISCD? What led you to choosing us?
Yeah, you know what? I kind of came into the industry a little backwards. So I already was working, we owned a construction company. So I was already doing a lot of the things behind the scenes. So I wanted to go and further my education and my knowledge, and to really take this industry further and make it as a career. I looked through all the different colleges and the different institutions I could study at. I was really looking for a place where it was industry practical and recognized versus, because I was already working in the industry, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just going to be sitting there looking at textbooks. So that was so important. And to me, ISCD was the complete answer, because it was so industry led, like you educators, you were working in the industry. So to me, that was what led me to go to ISCD.
Oh, that's good. It's like, getting you ready for the real stuff. You know what I mean? Getting you so you can go out into the field and, create these amazing spaces. So during your time at ISCD, how was your professional development grow? Like, how did you learn those basic skills, and what things did you learn?
Yeah. You know what? Going and studying was an absolute game changer. So I went from just being as a hobby to then being able to change it to a career. And that education and what you learn, like from beginning at the foundations and color theory down to, through to drawing up, commercials and residential designs. It was like, it inspired me even more. And I knew that I was in the right place in the right industry to be, but it gave you the knowledge and the confidence to take it further. So it wasn't just like I kind of answered in the first question, it wasn't just theory, because theory is great, but if you don't pull that into practice and you can't see where it's going, you kind of it goes in one ear out the other, where it was just so hands-on. And it was like, as I said, an absolute game changer.
I think you're right, so because we have a lot of students who come with little to no design experience, but then we've got some who really have that creative flair by them, or they've helped their friends renovate, or they've done that to their house. But then transitioning that into an actual career and managing clients, I think you've nailed it there, where you actually have to learn those basic skills and those practical things to really solidify your own skills, and really hone in on those technical aspects, which you do need to know when you're putting together these schemes for clients and things like that.
Yeah, because I think so many people think our industry is just fluffing cushions, and it's like, I think I did a post about it. It's so not, that's like the final detail. And it's like, you are spending, well, you're spending so much time with your clients. You become like, you know, quite intimate with them, and you're with them for such a long time that, you know, it's just so much more. And you need to be knowledgeable, and you need to be confident to be able to, you know, make people's journeys to whatever they're doing the reason why they hired you.
Yeah, I think you're right. People watch like Queer Eye and see them transform like these houses in 24 hours. Like, look, we just like, that's not the real world.
No.
You spend a couple of days choosing the tiles alone.
Yes. Oh, and it's like, like you said, people always say, oh, your house like is amazing. You'll go do things for friends, and then they call themselves, oh, I'm going to go in this industry, and I have a nickname. It's not offensive to anybody out there, so don't be, but it's Debbie Decorators, because anyone can be a Debbie Decorator, but there's a big difference between your knowledge and your education, your experience when you're a designer or a stylist, to being a Debbie Decorator in the industry.
Absolutely. It'll be like me working out my grocery budget and then think I'm an accountant. Like, I did a good grocery budget, not an accountant.
That's it.
You know, you have to develop a few more skills and things like that to get that far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So during your time at ISCD, what were some of your highlights during your study, and what were your overall student experience with us?
You know what? Like, the first thing I think of is, without like going, you know, praising you guys, but it was the educators, because they were just they were supportive. They became your friends, but they also pushed you to go that extra mile. So to me, they were amazing. Like Lisa Kohler was one of my main educators. And as you said, she's still there. And it was just like, it wasn't you're just there studying. Someone was like your biggest supporter behind you. So I remember every time, like, I studied part on campus and part online. So if it was going to campus, it was like walking into a big family, but online it was the same thing. It was like, you know, picking up a phone to a girlfriend, but one that was going to tell you what it really was, not just, you know, be, yes, that's amazing. So that definitely was one of like my biggest things. And then the thing that I remember, and it's quite ironic now, is I remember doing an assessment on the hotel design, and I absolutely loved it. I did a hotel in Bali. It was one of my favorite things. And now I'm in the holiday property world. So it's actually come full circle.
You never know what you may lead to, you know?
Yeah. And I always, one of the things I loved was, and for people who are going to study, I encourage them to think like this, is when you're doing assessments, don't think of them as assessments. I used to think of them as fake clients. So then I have my fake clients and my real clients. So, you know, there's houses that I'll drive past today, and I think I know the house because I chose and did them as assessments. I'm like, that house. So I think of them as fake clients. So these fake clients are still so memorable to me, even though I didn't do the practical work, but I did all the design, the theory behind it, that they become part of your world. So that's definitely like huge memories for me.
That's so nice to hear, especially what you're saying about educators, because honestly, I think we value our educators a lot. I'm not speaking for myself, but the other educators, we really nurture as much as we can. And even in the online community now, like Lisa yesterday did a ProConnect talk with all of our students at the Temple and Webster headquarters and things like that. So she's still connecting one-on-one with her students the best way she can as well. So it's really, really nice of you to say that. So do you have any advice for students potential students who may be thinking about entering study? Like, some people may have not studied for a very long time. So have you got any advice for that that type of person?
Yeah, you know what? So many people get scared of, you know, so people who are later on and they've, you know, new career path, they get nervous that are they going to remember how to study? Or people who are just going from school leavers, and they get intimidated that, is everyone going to be older? So my thing is, you've just got to do it. Like, don't procrastinate about it, and just go, what do you have to lose when it comes to studying? You're like, if you're thinking about this career, you already got a passion for it. And it's always like, I feel with studying, that imposter syndrome comes in, because it's like, oh, if I study, am I going to be able to do it? Am I going to be good enough? And then it's the other thing about prioritizing. And I remember when I was studying, I had 4 children. So I was juggling, you know, the lot. But the thing is, the study never became a hassle, because like, yes, I would have to prioritize my time to make it work, but I wanted to be doing that study. You know, you lived and breathed it. So people get so concerned about how much time it's going to take, but it's just about prioritizing. And if this is something you want to do, trust me, you will make it the one thing that you do every single day. So yeah,
I think you're now there with even the previous answer you had about how you approached your study as like, they're my clients. This is like, you really approached it in a real world situation, which I guess would give you even confidence once you transition out into the workforce as well. And if you reframe it as, you know, not laborious study, but these are opportunities and these are potential clients and things like that. Or what I always tell my students, that, you know, your assessments become part of your portfolio that you show employer. I guess it kind of helps you along and justify maybe the time spent, that, you know, the time dedicated to studying is for your future.
Absolutely. Like you said, that portfolio, I remember for that first year out of studying, I use that all the time. Like it becomes your work. It's like, so many people, you know, get worried about how they're going to get work. It's like, you've already done all this work in college. Like, these are fake clients, but this is your real work. So it's so valuable.
And, you know, you're 100% right. And through that, those assessments and briefs, we really do encourage you to show your own creative flair and things like that. So when you do have that time to approach an employer, you've got this work which not only shows your skill, but shows your little character, shows your personality, shows your personal design flair, which you may not have at the beginning of the course, but, you know, you slowly develop it along the way. And, you know, it's actually amazing to see some of the students transition from the beginning, when they can't even draw, you know, a box, to drawing these amazing perspectives. And, you know, everyone has their own skills. Some people love hand drawing, which we still encourage. Some people love computer skills. It's just finding your little niche within that design world.
Absolutely. And I was the person who was like, I can't draw. I can't do this because I can't draw. And I, like you said, from the beginning to where I got to at the end of my studies was mind blowing. And so that squished that notion out the window. So if there's anyone else out there who is like, I love this, but I can't draw, trust me, if I can, you can do it.
I think that's our biggest hurdle we get when we new students come and like, we can't draw. We're like, we're not expecting you to. That's okay. We built that into the course, expecting people not to have those things ready. So we teach you little step. We start with a little house, and then we start bigger. So we kind of touched on a little bit before, but all of our courses now are completely online. So we actually moved online just before COVID. And so we had this strong online course before COVID started. And then obviously since COVID, it's taken off. Have you got any thoughts about people who may be not nervous about studying, but nervous studying online, and the commitment that takes, and, you know, trying to find that, not the time, but, you know, connecting through the screen?
Yeah. You know what? I actually think it is a huge advantage to study online. At first you think, oh, am I going to be dedicated? Am I going to be structured to do it? But when you study online, it's real life. So I can say, like, right now I'm in the office, but 90% of my work is all online. So if you're studying and educating, and this is the way that, you know, when you get to the end of it, you are so much further ahead than someone who's on campus and is used to, I wouldn't say if it's more hand-holding, but just having people around them. Because in the real world in design, like, I know we were just talking before this started, we've got work remote. You don't have to just go, I live in Sydney, so I'm going to work with Sydney clients. It's your world. Your work can be anywhere. So by studying online to begin with, you're already so much further across. But what I would say is it's really about, you know, people, we like to connect. We crave that human interaction. So it's about really connecting with the people in your class and your educators. And like you said before, you guys have got those drop-in sessions and connect, which is the incursions. So they're the times that you want to go to make sure you've got that human connection online. And I feel like post-COVID, we all know how that works now. So I just honestly, when I did like on campus was great, but I think I was way more productive, and I think I actually learnt a lot. I took a lot more in the online space because there's no noise, there's no distraction. So I think anyone who's worried about the online side of it, think of it as an advantage hugely. I think it puts you miles ahead.
Yeah. And it's about anything in life. What you put in is what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
And so we offer those incursions, we offer those drop-in sessions, we offer that connection, so if you do connect with us and you like, you know, open to those activities and things like that, you will find that community. And we often find as well that people's strengths grow a lot quicker when they kind of are working on their own project. They're not doing the looking over the shoulder, seeing what my classmates are doing. And at the end of the day, we want people to form their own creative identity. And we don't really want to form Lego boxes of creators. We want people to be their own person with their own skill sets. And we find that when people study online, they find their own little niche because they're not comparing themselves to the person next door.
Yeah. Oh, that would be huge. Like, honestly, I just think there's so much positive in studying online.
Yeah. I think we might, if Smita is there, I think we might see, because I've seen that there's quite a few questions popping up. I might bring Smita in. Hey, Smita.
Hey.
Is there any questions that you want to throw at us?
Yeah, there's quite a few that have that's come in, so I'll just go by step. So first one would be, hi Simone, you mentioned that in the past you were involved in construction. So what made you want to take the step into interior design?
It was a mix of things. It was that I love houses and I lived and breathed them. So I really wanted to stop doing it just as a hobby, and I knew that I had a skill and a talent, but I needed to develop it. So I was like, it was a career path, and it was somewhere I could really come into my own space, individuality and creatively.
Yeah.
But it was also, I did listen to other people. So like a lot of people who went to this industry, I had people saying, you need to do this as a job. So I did get a push because, like I said earlier, I was like, I can't draw. So there was a lot of encouragement along the way. But yeah, that would be it.
Steering you into the right direction. The next question is, how much of what you learn at ISCD do you apply to your day-to-day work, Simone? And do you do all of it, or do you outsource some tasks, i.e. technical drawings? You kind of answered that a little bit already. But
yeah. Honestly, I still use my templates like for FF and E schedules. They're still the same ones that I use at ISCD. So every day. I know. It's like, because you leave, when you finish studying, you've got all your business documentation. So I still use those templates today. How much do I outsource? I never used to outsource anything. As my business has grown, I now have another designer that works with me and another junior. So whilst I don't outsource, now they do most of the technical drawing side and I'm more in the creative side of it. But again, I've worked with people who outsource a lot. So I think it comes down to more about how you choose to use your time. And then some people find their strengths are in the technical side of it and they love it. And then they want to outsource to other people. But for me, I've always kept it in-house and now I've been able to grow my team.
Yeah. I think as well, as a designer, you're never going to be good at everything. You're not going to be the expert. You know, I look at our fellow educators like Edwina, who just loves fabrics and textiles and can talk for days about her amazing designs in that direction. And then I look at our other educator, Emily, who is, you know, she comes from an architecture background and is a little bit similar to myself, but we like the hard materials, how things come together, the joinery and those types of elements. So it's about finding what works for you. And it's even about, you know, about presenting your work. You could be an amazing sketcher and can walk into someone's house and sketch an amazing design and say, hey, here you go. Or you may be an amazing stylist. And like, I just work, you know, physically picking things up, putting things down, and I can visually create something for you. So it's about, the course offers you a little bit of a taste of everything. And then from that, you can expand on the skills which you are drawn to a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
There's actually quite a few questions. I'm wondering if we should wait till later, probably another 10 at least.
Should we wait for those ones then?
You reckon?
Yeah. No, we can wait for that. We can wait to the end or the next time for questions.
Yeah, there'll be a little chance for, we'll definitely answer all the questions and apologies in advance if we don't answer them today. But we will be sending out a recording as well and a little script of all the questions and answers later as well.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Nita. Talk to you in a little bit. Okay, so we might move on. And so can everyone see that? Can you see that, Simone?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Cool.
Yeah.
So obviously you had, you know, you got your education, you already had your creative flair, and now it's stepping into the real world of design. What happened? What did you do? What challenges you faced building your brand and building your company, especially at those beginning times?
Yeah. You know what? I just remember having to just take the leap of faith and just go for it.
Yeah.
Because if you finish your education and then you really procrastinate and you got this imposter syndrome and the fear of how am I going to get out there, that's when you'll still be back there. So for me, it was just a matter of putting myself out there. So like we said earlier, I had a portfolio of work. Whilst I was fake clients, it still showed my design talents. Yeah. So I was using that to promote it. I also was, you know, I don't know if they're saying, well, it's kind of like fake it till you make it. So not faking it that I couldn't do the design work, but faking that I had all these clients. So there's really... You've got to find ways to get your work out there. So, you know, simple things like flat lays, showing how you can work with the different materials and textures. It's so easy and such a good way to really show people what you do and what your design's about. It is about going and then speaking to, you know, family and friends and say, hey, can I come and do this? You just need to get your foot in the door. Yeah. Because if you just get that one start, it just has a flow-on effect. So when I just started, I just went for it. And I was just like, I've just got to get my work out there. I've got to fake that I'm really confident and I've got this. Because I had doubt like everyone does, but it was like, I knew that this is really what I wanted to do. And I knew that I wanted to go in this as a business, not as a hobby. So if you go in with that from the beginning, as well as what you've learned from ISCD, from the business side of things, it really just set me up to just start. And literally I started and I have not looked back. So, yeah.
I think that's really good advice of just putting yourself out there and really, you know, you're putting your own barriers up. No one's putting those barriers up for yourself. And I think talking to, you know, family members, friends, doing concepts for them, you know, even if they don't want it, say, okay, well, I'm just going to redesign your lounge room. Here you go. Have it for free. I even, I had some advice when I went out on my own, and it was my good friend, Adam Robertson. He's got a really amazing landscape design business. That's a plug for you, Adam. And when he started his business, he would go out to showrooms. So it would go out to landscapers and outdoor furniture showrooms and talk to them. And he would get a lot of information from them. And then when clients would come in buying all this outdoor furniture, it's like, oh, I need someone to design it. They'd put them in touch with him. It's like, oh, we actually just had a designer in yesterday, and he put himself out there. And I think it's about, putting yourself out there and having trust in your own ability to do and understand your own skills, and having, your education has put you in that position to do the job.
Yeah. It's like, that's such a good thing that you raised, like about going out to the suppliers and networking in the showrooms, because it's also then about getting more of the knowledge from these people, but then you're also becoming more industry versed, you're building up your sample library, you're connecting, you'll run into other designers, and it just has this flow on effect, and it just happens. And for some people who, it doesn't happen as quick, don't ever compare yourself to someone else's journey, because like I feel like I had definitely a step up from already being in the construction industry. But I go, you just can't compare it to other people, because each one is individual, and what you want from your business is completely different to the person next door. So it's about being clear with what your intentions are for your business as well.
And so a part of, building that business, and even for you especially, has come down to your branding. You've got a really strong brand, and part of this brand is your Instagram and this amazing community you've kind of built up on your social media platforms. How did you get started that, and how did you build that up?
Yeah, you know what? Social media, people either love it or hate it. And in the design industry, you'll learn that it's a necessity. So when it comes to social media, I think it's so powerful. It's actually, we're so blessed that we have that in our industry and networking with consumers. I would probably say 90% of clients find me through social media. So that there itself shows that you're not just on there, like just posting for the sake of it. So for me, how I build up these communities, how I use it, is about having an intention every time I go on social media. So yes, everyone likes the pretty pictures and they're all, inspired by it, but have an intention of what someone's going to take away from it. So it's also an opportunity for you to teach them something or to show them about your knowledge. So instead of just like, oh, look at this kitchen, it's like, hey, did you know what's involved in a kitchen design? Or the mixture of materials we've used here. So if you go in with an intention with it, then people connect because they're walking away with something. So I call it like people have a toolbox. And every time they're on social media, if they stay with you as a follower, your community, they'll come back to you because they want to keep on taking something away in their toolbox. They may become your client, or they may not become your client, but they may mention you to somebody else, and it has such a big impact. So go in there with an intention of what you are on there for. Also know what you stand for. And then it's also about, don't look at the numbers, because it's not always about quantity. It's always about quality. So I just think social media can get such a bad rap, but it also can be so amazing. And if I just mention about back to community, social media is this massive community of interior designers supporting each other as well, which is just so lovely.
And I think the way you've spoken about it just then, there's an authenticity about what you're saying, and people can see that really clearly, especially in social media. If there's good intentions behind your social media, people are really going to connect with that, and it'll be a good experience for them. And then that way, I said it's not about the numbers, but that quality engagement between you, and basically it's like a virtual portfolio of you and your work. That's what it is really. That it's you putting yourself out there for everyone to see. So you put your best foot forward and with good intentions, and I'm sure good things will come back to you.
Absolutely. And for people who are starting out and don't necessarily have their own images to share, like I said, use your flat lays. Look for opportunities, like look for things out in the environment, snap away and post what you see about them. When it comes to sharing other people's content, it's such like a an issue that I think students should really be aware of, that if you want to post someone's work, make sure you use the courtesy and ask them to post it. Most interior designers, it's a compliment. I know I get asked all the time, and I love that people want to share my work. It fills my cup up. So don't be scared to reach out to designers, because also it's another form of connecting, and it can just grow from there.
I think that's a really, really great point you just raised as well, because we want you want to be I lack of the words at the moment. So, but we've got a really strong community in the interior design world, and we really prop each other up, and we love that about each other. If anyone needs a help, or this is amazing work by Simone. But you really want to be honest with that, and not really be taking other people's images without that right credit, because really that's someone's hard work, and that's someone's study, and that's someone's business. So I think it's great that you mentioned that. And hey, feel free to post it, just credit it. And
exactly.
So like, hey, check over Simone's work. So I think that's a really good point you made there.
Yeah.
So part of building this big brand, and you even just mentioned that 90% of your business comes from these social media platforms. What are the big opportunities that have come along with that? What are some great things that have come from that social media platform?
Oh, so many. Honestly, it's endless. The clients that I now work with, my dream clients, is who keep coming through the door. It's the people though that I connect with through social media. I'm a natural oversharer. So for me, I like to tag and credit things and share what materials are with people.
Yeah.
And so I think this afternoon someone had messaged me and said, oh, you posted something about decking the other day. I'm meeting with my builder, I'm stressed, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, no worries. It's turpentine decking, and gave them a, rundown. I love that, because although they're not a paid client, that's what it's what we're doing. So there's always that give back part of it. So to me, that's a big opportunity. But then if I go to the big things, it's I have met so many amazing people, from big brands to, well-known people, all through my work. And they're people now who I class as my really good friends, and I wouldn't have met them through social media. I've also been signed on as ambassador for some of Australia's biggest building brands, which is just mind-blowing. And my work's been featured in my favorite magazines. It's all over Pinterest. So I'm honestly, the opportunities are endless, and I still they just keep on coming through the door. So it's crazy. If someone asked me whilst I was studying, even before I studied, or when I finished, would this be what's happening? I'd be like, oh my goodness. So I could go on forever. So many.
Gosh, I'm excited.
Yeah. Oh, but that's
I'm
what
excited
it is.
for you.
Because if you believe in yourself and you put yourself out there, and you basically cool. Stay in your own lane.
Yeah.
You'll connect with like-minded people. You'll connect with like-minded industry brands. It all just has, I'm a confident person. I put myself out there, but that is what leads to opportunities. And that is what design is. You look for the opportunities.
And it's about, expressing yourself as an individual. And even within our course, we've got a subject design industry practice, where we get you to start developing your own brand, get you to start developing, you talked about the schedules and the FF&Es and things like that. So getting all of those things personalized into you, so you are ready to then launch yourself out there and really put yourself out there to do all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, the brand identity module, that again, it really set me on my path, because I remember doing that, and after doing my fake client assessments and knowing already that I didn't want the high-end work, that was not my market. I knew where I wanted to be placed. I knew that I was all about, I wasn't budget, I wasn't DIY, but I was practical, affordable, but pulling off a high-end look and affordable price. So that was really clear to where I felt my strengths were and the properties I loved, but then allowed me to build my brand identity. So when I left ISCD, I hit the road running, knowing what my brand stood for. I had all my documentation, and that that in itself in studying was a game changer, like
Yeah.
so much.
It helps. It really helps, set yourself up.
Yeah. You know what? I'm not even realizing until we're having this chat now how much like I actually still use from the ISCD days. So it's actually quite good.
Who did you have for that? Because we got Edwina doing that now. And she goes through every single one really with a tooth comb, make sure everyone has the right stuff.
I can't even remember. I actually remember what she looked like. She was an older lady with dark hair. Oh, what's her name?
Yeah.
I can't remember, but I will. Let me think of it.
So my next question was actually, what do you see in your horizon for your business? And it could be a place in Jindabyne.
Yeah.
Is anyone out there with a chalet in Jindabyne that wants Simone to renovate?
Oh gosh, don't even go there.
What do you see in your horizon?
There's honestly, for my business, there is, like I said, so many opportunities. So I've got my design part of my business, which I absolutely love. And it is really my creative outlet and it's what fills my cup up. Yeah. I also have my own online education coming through. It's more for the consumers because there's a massive gap in the market. Well, it's not even me chasing an opportunity. I just feel so passionate about it where, people, our clients, I'm going to build my dream home. They go to an architect, building designer, whatever it is. They get their plans done. And then they turn up at a builder and go, there you go. And the builder's like, okay, what do you want me to do with it? And there's a massive step. So I don't believe everyone has to use an interior designer. And that is something that you'll learn, like students will learn, that not everyone is your client. And there's a good reason why. But it's about educating people from the process of this dream home to when you get to your building stage of what you've got to have prepared. Just to me, knowledge is empowering people with their process. So for me, it's like, if I flip it on the head, if you go to like my brand name Soul Home, so it's all about, I want people to keep their soul during their home journey. So I've got that side of things. I've also got one coming out for industry, just a little bit, a lot of people aren't site confidence. They can't do the tradie talk. Yeah. So there's a bit of that coming through. So that's that side. My design work, like, as I said before, I've got projects everywhere. Yeah. And we've got our own projects coming up and I've got 3 more online sponsored series. So there is a lot.
It's happening.
So much. Yeah. But that's what I meant. Anything is possible. And that's where I go,
absolutely.
For everyone, that's not what they want, but it's, you go after what you want and opportunities come knocking.
I think you might need to hire a few more people.
Might need to get some students.
I think you might need to get your 4 boys working for you in the future.
Oh, don't joke. They did during COVID because we were building the pause at that time. And I quit homeschooling quite early, 4 boys, and they literally went over and like insulated the whole property. So they got a taste of what it's like.
Good, I know.
Yeah.
Because I can see the questions getting pretty full, so I might bring Smita in. Smita, do we have any questions for Simone about branding or about building a company or anything along those lines?
Lots of really, really good questions. So I'll start I'll pick up where I left off. You might have already answered a couple of them, so feel free to skip over it if you have. So Ali is asking, Ari is asking Simone, I'm thinking about starting an interior design or decorating course and I'll need to invest in some tech. As a designer, do you prefer Macs or the regular PC laptop for your work, Simone?
I personally prefer Macs. So that's because I'm more versed on Mac and they work for what I need, but I also have Kim, who works for me, uses a PC because she likes that better. So I don't believe there is one preference. It is what you are more confident in on using. What does ISCD use?
Well, that's a great question because Smita, as our course advisor, gets that all the time. And she asked me that yesterday. And I don't like to recommend anything because it's what you like. Yeah. If you may find that you love AutoCAD and you love lighting design and you're going to become an amazing lighting designer. And do you know what? A PC is perfect for you. AutoCAD runs smooth on that. Or you may become an interior designer or a stylist, then really need to use those Adobe programs, which just are a breeze on Mac. So it really comes down to what you like. Within the course, we offer all of our online software courses. We offer both PC and Mac options. So even with the SketchUp courses and things like that, when I put them together, I made a PC option and a Mac option. So whatever you like. Yeah.
I would say when you're like, if you're buying a laptop, make sure you get the ones with the biggest screens. And I always had set up when I was studying, I had my my main computer, but I also had a second screen. I find that is amazing. So whatever computer you use, if you get a second screen, it's really good when you're working at looking at a floor plan, and then you're working on your concept. It's good to look at the two. So if you're going to invest in something, I'd say a second screen.
I think that is really great advice. And even when you're drawing like your plans and stuff on an A3 page on your screen, you want that screen to be of a decent size so you can actually see what the scale of the drawing looks like, because there's nothing worse than working on a little screen and then you get printed off and you realize you've got a whole lot of white space going on. So that's a good advice, getting a big screen.
The next question is from Ali. Do you think, Simone, it was easier for you to enter interior design because of your construction background, or do you think someone from a non-construction background would enter it just as easily?
I think coming from a construction background gave me the confidence, but it didn't give me the skills or the start. Like I wasn't, because we had a construction business, I wasn't getting clients knocking on the door because our standard clients, they already had everything done. They wanted to do the process themselves. They weren't looking for an interior designer. So it gave me confidence, but I still had to go out there and find my clients separately. So yes, there was an advantage, but I don't think you need to come from a construction background to be able to make it out there. I don't think that is what was my success at all.
Yeah, we even had a chat with one of the head stylists from Temple Webster yesterday, and she started off as a hairdresser, and so it really and we've had actually hairdressers, quite a few hairdressers, and similar people with that experience in our course, and it's just how you transfer your skills. Some people are really good, networkers, so they haven't got that design skill yet, but hey, they can go to site and talk to anyone. They can go get their clients from, their huge pool of networks and things like that. So as everyone comes with a different background, new school leavers have great computer literacy, whereas, our older students have amazing work ethic. So it's just what you bring to the table.
Yeah, I agree. Everyone's got their like little genius zone that can help them start, work out that and jump from there.
Yeah.
From Rachel about any tips that you have about transitioning from study in the classroom to real world and overcoming any confidence issues associated with being a new designer to the industry. So how did you cope with that?
Like I said in the course, I treated every project assessment like a client. So yes, there was a transition from there because my now fake clients weren't coming through the door. But what it was systems and procedures. So the transition from studying to going out to work and practice as a designer, it's about getting your systems and procedures and you being confident rather than, you get your first client. Like I remember my first client being like, oh my God, this is amazing. Going, oh, holy moly. Now I'm like, okay, this is real. So if you've got your systems and your procedures, then you're like, okay, I've got this. I can do it. And like you build on what you've already learned. But I've always recommend if you really focus and nail that and have some practice clients from when you finish to then to your real client. And it just gets you ready for it. So there is a transition, but I think it's honestly comes down to organization, getting yourself ready and realize treating this as a business and a career If you treat it like a hobby on the side, which for some people it will be, but when it's a hobby on the side, still treat it as a business, because, you know, it's still good to do, you know, work for family and friends. But I always say to people, trading time for money, like it's your IP. Even when you come out of studying, it's your intellectual property that you've spent all this time studying, investing in. And that is what you want to value. And once you value that, your transition from studying to a real life, that is, then you really will understand what it's about.
Yeah. And there's no reason why you can't have little stepping stones along the way. There's no reason why, hey, I might get, we've got some really amazing students who've gone in and got jobs in showrooms and stone companies and brick companies and things like that, and they become the designer for those companies and things like that. So maybe not going up all on your own, but, you know, maybe those little steps along the way, or, hey, I'm not going to do a whole house, but I'm going to redesign that dining room for that person. And know that if you are getting employed as an interior designer for someone, they want an interior designer because they know that they haven't got the skills. So you've got the skills already on top of them. So you go in there with the confidence, knowing I know more than them, and we'll go from there.
Actually, on that, I actually went and got a job. I had client work, so I didn't need to do this. I went and got a job as, the interior decorator at Freedom Furniture. And I did that for 6 months because it was just repeat. I wanted to get confident in understanding what people wanted, going in their houses, measuring up, delivering concepts. Whilst it was not like where I wanted to be, it was, I thought of it as my like apprenticeship, traineeship.
Yeah, fantastic. It's really good that's actually really good training and understanding, you know, even furniture, crap, I'm buying this big lounge, I need to get into that apartment, and, you know, getting those training wheels of, you know, a company, you know, and learning, you know, maybe your goal's up there, but to go those steps to get there, you know, doing the hard yards.
Answer somebody else's question. Somebody asked that. So Zoe asked if you had worked for yourself straight away, or if you worked for somebody else. So that answer that question. Jessica would love to know what design programs you love, Simone, and what you find most useful and you use day to day in your work.
Yep, I use SketchUp. So SketchUp is where you'll find me spending a lot of my time. I will use Adobe InDesign quite a bit, but I also use Simple PowerPoint a lot for all my concept presentations because they're quick, they're simple, and they look amazing. You know, I use like Microsoft Word for all my FF&Es, really basic. I'll jump onto AutoCAD a little bit, but because I use SketchUp and layout together, it works really well. And obviously, like, and not programs, but Pinterest, they still have it. Like, there's a huge place for us as designers to be using them. Canva for a lot of the marketing side of things and presentations. So, but I would say SketchUp the most.
Michael's a bit of a whiz at SketchUp.
I missed that, Smita.
You're a bit of a whiz at SketchUp, aren't you?
Oh, thanks. But I noticed in Simone's background that corkboard, and I'm a big fan of pinning things up and also getting things out of your head and getting up on the screen, or not screen, on a board. And even laying it out. I don't want to show you my desk to my right because it's just covered. And it's about pulling those things together and visually seeing them, because we're designing real spaces in real places. So, you know, you really want to see how materials look together and the different lights, and the storm's cleared now and it's now beautiful. And I can see that, you know, my materials have already changed color. So it's really, computers and things like that are our tool, but at the end of the day, we really have to understand design and how these materials come together and how they're going to look once we put them up into these people's homes.
Yeah, and nothing beats like the physical product, like clients touch and feel like the hard materials. If you saw the other side of my desk, that's what it looks like. Because these corkboards, we've got little ones here that just went up this week because I was like, I need more space. I need to like plan it right out. And it's also when you're working, so say you've got all your pin boards, you may not share this with clients, or you may choose to, but it's really good for clients to see it too, the physical put together, like you mix up your inspo images with your different materials. Or if you're working, say you are outsourcing some things and you're working with people who are drawing it up, they are also understanding where the look and the design you're going for.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next question is from Rachel. Do you have any advice, Simone, about portfolios, how to refine your portfolio, make them stand out when you're applying for interior design jobs in the real world?
Yeah. Obviously put your best foot forward, as you do with anything. And what I would do is, when it comes to your portfolio, depending on the jobs that you're going for or your genius zone, which is where like you'll find the area that you're going to focus on, make sure your portfolio is targeted for that. Don't just have one portfolio that there's not like one fits all. So say, for example, you're going for a position and it's in a kitchen design firm. You're going to make sure that your portfolio is really full of all the kitchens and bathroom side of things. If you're going into a big, large firm where you're going to be in residential, you're going to have a lot more of the concepts and the whole process. So it's really about customizing your portfolio each time to the job that you're going for.
Absolutely. And at the moment, for ISCD students, our job board is pretty chockers. We've got quite a few positions going. Ranging from textile companies through to stone companies and things like that. So you may find, as I'm going to steal Simone's word, that you're genius. You're really good at that textiles and loving the fabrics and things like that and working that out. Get your soft furnishing assessments out there and really show them how you've put together these schemes. Or you're like, I really love that hard materials subject and selecting stone and selecting tiles and putting the bathroom concept together. Get your hard materials assessment out there and present it and send it off to them. So really curate what you want to achieve and what you think they're going to want to see.
Yeah.
Next question. Sorry, I was just responding to a question there. It's from Kelly, and she'd love to see any assignments that you've had, if you've got any left from ISCD, in your ISCD days, from your early assignments.
Yeah, I would. They'd be saved on the computer somewhere. I will. You know what? If you follow me on social media, I'll go looking for them and I'll post something out in the next week so you can have a look and see what they are.
Okay.
So, I just found all of my old assignments the other day down in this. I used to get them all printed off, and one of mine was from this is before the MCA did their full renovation. Yeah. And that was our project and our brief. And I walked past and like, my design would have been better. I treated it like design as well.
Your fake client. Yeah.
They went with the wrong design.
Yeah. Come on. What didn't they miss? Yeah. I'll find it. I'll find one, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I think we might head over and look at some of your projects. Now, not your assessments, but
my real clients.
Your real clients.
Yeah.
So I'll just share again. Yep, all good?
Yeah, can you see it? Yeah.
When we're talking about strengths, like Zoom presentations, maybe not my strength. So okay, so this one, so we talked about Seoul Geringong. Was this the starting point? Was this your first major project? Tell us a little bit about this one.
No, this wasn't the first major project, but what I would say, it was the first project that I decided to come out from behind the house and put my face to the brand.
Right.
So that's where I find that most people will know me from Seoul Geringong. Yeah. But that was a strategic move in my branding and my business to then become, okay, here I am. So Seoul Geringong was an original farmhouse on the south coast of New South Wales. We had no plan so I've purchased this property. This is my own project, not a client project. We purchased this with no plan to purchase the property at all, but we just fell in love with the character of this old house. I just remember standing out the front, and at that point, my love wasn't even old houses, and it drew me in. It was unbelievable. long story short, we actually relocated from Sydney down to Geringong and created, like, we wanted to restore this property. It's not heritage listed, but it had heritage interest. So every single material that could be reused was reused. Like the original windows are in the Seoul barn, the floors were all reused. And this project, as you can see, made it to the front cover of Country Style magazine. And I remember being like, holy moly, this is like unbelievable.
I've done it.
Yeah, like everything I've been doing, it was just like, not that you don't need to make it to a front cover to be like, I've made it, but it was just like, oh, like
it's the logos of interior design.
Yeah.
Like you got the world logo there. Yeah.
And because we really had whilst I decided to come out like strategically from my brand, this was a bit of we knew that we could build and design. And the reason we decided to do this as an accommodation business first, one to sell or to keep for ourselves, was we knew that when my husband built them and I designed them, we really came into our genius zone together.
Okay.
And we wanted to be able to share it with people. So I know that people follow me or are interested in what I do because they want to be inspired and take part of what I do back into their own world. So to me, to be able to share accommodation, but also the design side of things, and people could come and stay, ask me questions, pick out the details, and they could leave. Again, that was filling my cup up. So that was the Solar Geringong project.
It's really interesting that you say that you are your own client in this, but you're actually designing it for everyone to enjoy as well. So you're treating it as everyone was your client, and you wanted everyone to enjoy this beautiful space the way you enjoyed it, really. Yeah,
because people go, Solar Geringong, that's your style. I said, it's actually not my style at all. I'm a big believer that your design, your property has to pay homage to, if it's an original property, to the existing, but also to the local area, to your neighbors, to the surrounding. And even though I was my own client, it was not for me. It wasn't, there was so much that I would do different if it was my own home. So 100%, even when it's your own projects, you need to think there's a client involved and you're designing it for them.
Yeah, and just looking at, like, it's an absolutely stunning design, looking at the materiality and things like that in this space, did you have to, thinking that other people are going to be using the space, did that influence your choice of materials and things like that? Or, did that come, because I look at it, I'm like, this is amazing, but it's not precious, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's used, it's enjoyed.
Yeah, I actually, with all clients, go, houses should not be precious. This is a place where you want to come in, you want to kick your shoes off and you want to relax. So you need to take that even further when it's holiday accommodation. Everything has to be practical. Like, I remember going to a retreat at the property. I was a guest, not running it. And I was, on the lounge with my shoes kicked off, like laying down feet on it. And guess what? Oh my God, what are you doing? And I'm like, this is what the house is designed for. It's to be lived in. And I think that is for everybody. And so it's so important. And just as I'm looking at like the fireplace there, when you're talking about materials, my original, and this is a good lesson for people when you're doing design and you're just working in concept and it's all picture perfect. This fireplace was all rendered. It was actually painted this hideous green and rendered, and this stone was hidden. So I had really light timber floors going through the property. And then when I didn't physically chip it away, but when it all got chipped away, there was this dark basalt stone. And I was like, because I was so used to working with light sandstone. And I was like, it threw me. It had orange in it. And then so I had to completely flip all my design specs around, and because I always work from the floor up, and I had to go with the dark floor then to be able to draw out the accents and the colors and the tones. And then the fireplace became the hero, and I love that. The favorite thing in the house.
That is the hero shot. If it's not the front facade,
it's the fireplace. Everyone walks in, it's just like, so that's like a good lesson, I think, with design. It's like we're saying, you need to touch and you feel it evolves. Like, nothing is ever every little bit of detail is not ever going to go to plan. And that's why I love this industry. So
absolutely. And just because you've got the design here, this is what I want, guarantee things are going to change along the way. And what did you say to me the other day? about there's never a problem, there's always solutions.
Only a solution, everything when it comes
there's only
to
a
this.
Solution.
Yeah, there's always like, and that's like, you might go and spec all these things for clients and they really don't like something, and you get like, you've got to learn that it's actually not, it's not an offense to you. There's just something that's really not resonating with them. It's like, okay, so what's not resonating? You get in their head, you tweak it, and then you come to like, and then you learn to love it even more.
Oh, absolutely. So we've got the soul, and like this is this. So it's kind of split into like two areas. So we've got the farmhouse, and then we've got the cottage at the back, I believe.
So no, so the Soul of Geringong is the Soul farmhouse at the front. Then there's a barn to the side. And then there's the cabana at the back. So that property has 7 guest rooms. And then on the side, which this property is the Seoul Cottage, it can be rented out separately or together. So the Seoul Cottage, each space has its own identity. So whilst they connect, like the Seoul Cottage was the original butcher shop and for the town. So it had so much history in it. So the, you know, the roof details there, they're original. So you can see, like, if you can see in that photo, like it's not all painted smooth. I wanted the timber to come through. It's the original concrete floors. Like, yes, we went and put another layer on, but it was, we worked with that property. This one had a really low budget for the build. Where Solar Geringong, we had to spend a lot more money on the actual farmhouse, but each one, just like, budget doesn't determine what you can achieve, because if I actually had to have a favorite, which you shouldn't have favorites, but the cottage has just this feeling that when it just, it oozes it.
And I think, you know, I'm just looking at those images, and even like, you know, you've got that track lighting the white, so it doesn't tear from the structure and the, you know, the soul of the space. It's just, you know, there to enhance it.
It's like there's one hero in every space, and then work around it.
Because it was interesting as well talking about the personalities of the two almost, because I wrote down in my next question, it's like they both share that they're almost the same part of the same family, but they're individuals. So you kind of kept this, they're different, similar, but they're approached in very different ways. It's really nice to see.
Because I think, and regardless, you know, obviously this is a big block of land and it's got 4 dwellings on it, but that's what I do in people's homes. It's like, you don't want this to just feel cookie cutter with what you do. Each space should still, they all need to connect, they all need to link, but each, like when it comes to family homes, like each children has a different personality. So like inject that into it. And because you want that, I'm all about feeling. Everything I do is the look comes secondary. It's about how you're going to feel in a space. And that is really about getting those personalities. And then if you get the feeling and the personality right, the look then comes together.
And if you understand the personality of the space and the client, the design process will be a little bit easier. You know, whereas if you go in there thinking, I want to create it like that Pinterest page, I saw it, and trying to fit the circle into the square peg, it's not going to work.
It never works. And I always say to people, like, be inspired by other people's works and Pinterest, but make it your own.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know we don't choose our favorites, but I think Paul's is my favorite. I absolutely love this. It's beautiful. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this project?
Yeah. So before we go into that, Solar Geringong I actually sold. So we sold that business altogether. We don't own it anymore, but it's still like my baby. I feel like it's a child that's gone off into the big wide world.
It graduated from you guys.
I feel like every project I do, it's like they, you know, they each have a piece, like a part of your heart with them. But the pause is got a lot more of my own personality in this. It is still like, this is another holiday property, but because we don't live in the town, I am actually my target market as well. So I was able to incorporate a bit more of my style in here, but still targeting it to my guests and the holiday property market. So this one was a new build, but I wanted this property to not feel stock standard. I use a 70-20-10 rule when it comes to design. So for me, this was, what did I do? 70% Bahamas, 20% minimalist, and it had a 10% of like a, what did I call it? I can't remember now. I've done it. Oh, like a classic feel to it. So
I
it all
love
just,
that concept.
I use it with everything. If it's the design on the exterior, if it's styling, if it's anything, there's three layers. Work out your proportions and bring it together.
That's
and then
great
it becomes a
too.
unique design. So this property is 2 stories. It's got 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms. I actually need to count up how many bathrooms I have done in my design world, because like with anything, the more that you do something, the more you become confident with it.
Yeah.
And this was a really good project because it's on a really small footprint. Like it's, I think, 450 squares.
Okay.
So it's a big house.
Yeah.
But it feels so open. Like it doesn't feel squashed in. Like,
look, you feel like you're on a plantation or something.
It actually feels like you're in Bali, but not like the traditional Bali. Like I'm not sure if there's any photos of the outdoor space with this one. No, like the pool area, like the landscaping design.
Yeah.
It's like, we were talking about this before we started, like sometimes the bigger the space, the more challenges there are. The smaller the space, I feel like you can be a lot more creative with it. So the pause, I do.
I love that. And even inside, like I love your use of like that concrete slab for that island bench. That's stunning.
Yeah. And it's like I said before, one hero. So like the island became the hero. So less is more. Yes, the 3 pendants, like, but it guides your eye. So you see the island and guides your eye around the space with it. So this one was very much like minimalist. So the textures and the materials came into play. So like the concrete floors, and then with the soft linen shears, like it's those mixture of materials is how you can really set your design work apart from like someone else's.
It's that balance as well. Even looking at that wardrobe, like you'd think, okay, concrete floors, white walls, okay, we need to soften that space. And then you've got that beautiful, looks like it's some sort of recycled timber for the wardrobe. And that, that's bespoke design edge is what sets you apart as a designer. You know what I mean? You're really finessing the design, and a developer would never do that, or go blow down the road's never going to do that in his house. It's about that designer coming in and adding those layers of design to the space, which you can see in these images.
I think also, like, back to one of the questions before about evolving from a student to then being a designer. If I look back to my first work to the pause, my work has evolved. Like, you grow up as you are in this industry for longer. So what I thought was my best work is now, like, I wouldn't say it is, but at the time it was. So don't feel like the pressure to be there. It evolves. Your work evolves. Your clients evolve. You evolve. It's just such a big process. Like, I'm sure, in 10 years' time, I'll look back and be like, oh, like, it's just always evolving.
Yeah. I guess no one's expecting to do a 4 meter 2-ton concrete slab thrown up the kitchen island for their first project.
No, and you wouldn't have the confidence to do it. So this is one of the things. You have to work up to that. I think with, like, when people there's so many people, like, I've got lots of friends and people who reach out who are really talented, they're creative, and I'm like, amazing, and they have created some amazing homes.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, when you get the education behind you, get the experience, you take more risks, you break more rules, and you become into your own. So it's all because you're developing and you've got the knowledge and you understand why you're going to do something, and you don't have as much fear with it. Yeah,
even when you're talking about, the soft linen with, like, the concrete floors, we're talking really there about the elements and principles of design, and we talk about that at the beginning of the course, really understanding design, really understanding what makes good design and things like that. You build that knowledge, which will give you the confidence to make those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so this is, it's actually really great to see this. So this is part of your design process for if you can share with us here.
Yeah. So this is, like I mentioned before, we've got another online series coming. So make sure you tune in. It's not really a sales plug, but it actually is going to educate people on a lot of things, on how you work with a client. So this is actually going to be really valuable for people who are thinking about going into the industry. So this is at a stage where this isn't at concept. So what you'll see here is my materials and tones board. So this is, like, we're further on from our concept stage. So we're really starting to get that feeling you'll see coming through of, if you look back to the pause, this is where we're seeing our materials and our textures to come through. So I can relay this to my client really clearly where we're going with it. But you can also see, if I was to present this to my client and they really did not like, say, the tiles in the middle where they're really rough edge, we can go, okay, well, why don't you like it? You can also educate. No, you need to do this. Don't always just say when a client says.
And have the tile with you as well.
Yes, so they can touch and feel.
Look how beautiful this is.
And so when, just a side note, if a client says to you, I really don't like that, you're like, don't just go, oh, okay, I'll change it, because you are the expert here. So you'd be like, okay, well, I've got this in here because of the texture. It's going to pull it all together and it's so minimalist and we don't want it to be stark. But then you go, okay, but what is it that made you think that you didn't like it? So you need to educate them on why you're doing things and remind them the reason why they've hired a designer. Absolutely. That's a big thing. But then you'll see on this other side here, this is the floor plan. So this is all being produced in SketchUp and layout. So this got presented to the client. You can see I've added a bit of color. So I like to add the greenery, a bit of timber in, but I like to do that in a floor plan. When you see my elevations and even my SketchUp models, I do not go and make it real life. I'm a big believer that you want people to get feeling out of it. But if you make it too real, the clients think it's real, and you might have an artwork or a chair in there, but they don't exist. They're just drawings. So I like to add the feeling into my floor plan. So it's really easy for clients to get a feeling for it and it brings it to life. But especially in elevations, or your models do not put too much detail, because they expect that exact thing and you won't be able to do it.
And it's, what I like about this concept board as well, or not concept board, but your materials and tones board, is that you've got that scale drawing there, because at the end of the day, this is a real life building. We are putting real furniture pieces in there, real kitchens and things like that. So although we're choosing lovely textures and tones and finishes, we've got to have a realistic image of what the space is going to, how this space is actually going to come together. So here you're really showing us a really rather technical side of things, as well as the design, textural, aesthetic side. But I
would say that so many people think that interior design is materials and textures and the pretty stuff. That is a big part of it.
Yeah.
But the technical side, if you do not get that right, the other things aren't going to flow. So space, like if I say my genius zone, I'll give myself a plug here. Mine is spatial planning and floor plans.
Yeah.
To me, you have to nail every bit of detail, and doing it at the floor planning stage is when you can make or break a design. So for example, in this floor plan, I don't know if you can see, it's a bit small, but where the kitchen island is in the dining room, there wasn't enough space. It wasn't going to work from what we got from the architect. So we had to really tweak that. We had to reduce the width of the island to make it work. And then all your materials and tones will flow in. Then the furniture comes into, and then you've got this space that's working because you've got your spatial planning bang on. So if you don't, like I said before, if you don't get the feeling right, so feeling comes back to spatial planning and understanding sizing and how people are going to live in a home or a property, then the look isn't going to work.
Exactly. There's no point in someone falling in love with this oversized island bench, and then you realize, oh, that island bench doesn't actually fit into the house, you know? So that spatial planning is really key.
Yeah.
Sorry. So this is now the Maybe Forever. So I believe this could be your project.
Yes. So this is, again, I am the client here, but perhaps I'm not the client, because by the name, it's the Maybe Forever.
The Maybe Forever.
I don't know if I can ever commit. That is a side effect for a lot of people who become interior designers. You like to do your own projects. So just beware. So the Maybe Forever is a property that we have bought with, it could be our home, but I'm also treating it again as a client, because it's a target market that I have. Like, to me, my client is professional people. They've got children in their 20s. They want their space. They want everything there. So I'm creating it for our family, but I know that who my client is. So this stage of the maybe forever, this is what I call mood board and concept. So this is right at the beginning. So say, for example, you've done your initial consult, you've really understood what the client wants. I do a questionnaire. I really, understand every bit of detail what they want. The first thing I will do is a mood board. And a lot of people get confused between mood board and concept board. So a mood board is just about the feeling. So don't worry about the pictures, don't have to be perfect for what the house is going to look like. It's just you can see from this mood board here, you can see it's really relaxed. It's quite organic, and it's got it's just really subtle, but it's got a life to it. Where then if you move to the concept board, you can see now I'm starting to bring in more of the spaces and a bit of the material, and we're starting to develop it a bit more. And I feel like a lot of people miss mood board. And it's like, if you don't get the mood board, the concept board I just think they're two steps that flow so well together.
Development, because the mood is really setting the atmosphere, shoes off, that glass of rosé is on the table, and that's the type of home we're going to be creating. And it's got that tick. Moving on to the concept. All right, what material should we use to make that happen? So it's about stepping your way up into the design. But I'm really excited to see this one come together because it looks beautiful.
So am I. It's like I said before, it's a very, big properties can be more challenging, and this is a big property.
Okay.
So,
Oh, well, I think I might bring Smita in because I'm sure there's lots of questions that we could get to.
Sorry, that was a technical glitch there. We've been inundated with questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, we can do
this. So Emma has asked, do you have any external, just about your business, Simone, external branding assistance with social media, or do you do everything yourself, the photos, the posting, all that?
Okay, so social media, I do that all myself. I am going to be outsourcing that this year because I've got so much on, but it's still really important to me that someone else is going to do it, but it's going to be planned out for me, and I go in and make sure it's the right tone and it's the message that's coming through. What was the other part? Social media and something else?
Branding, just general branding. Do you do it? So she said
branding. I had a graphic designer set it up in templates for me, so it's really simple to use. When it comes to photography, I invest in professional photographers for all my work because I am not an expert photographer. I will take photos when it comes to social media on stories because it keeps it real and authentic, because I don't want people to think that I'm only going to post picture perfect photos. But to me, photography can make the difference between your property, your design work showing. So again, if you're using that as part of your portfolio, a great photographer can make your work look amazing. You have great work and you've got not good photography skills, it can just make your work look absolutely not what it is.
Are you aware of any grant funding for startup businesses in regional areas, or this area?
There is a lot of grants that become available, and especially for regional. I don't know if there's one specific to the design industry. What you should do, there's a business called Granted, so GRANT''D, and she's a friend of mine or a business associate, and she has all the grants up there. So if you need to go and work out if there's one, definitely head over to there. But regional, there's always opportunities for sure.
That's really good tips. Rachel asks, what's the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome with starting your own business? You probably touched, into it already, but
yeah, it's my own imposter syndrome, not backing yourself, not thinking that your work is what you think it is, comparing to other people's, worrying if I'm not getting enough work, or I'm not sharing enough, or I'll do it's that. And that, if that gets into your head, it can really trick you up. So, and it's natural, it's human nature that we do that, but it's about, I always say, you've got to stay in your own lane. And so for me, at the beginning, that was a big challenge for me. And then that was probably one of the reasons why I used to let the houses do the talking and I used to stay in the background. And then it was like, you know what, my work is amazing and I owned it. And when my work is individual, it is my design style, and I'm attracting like-minded people, you will always get people, especially on social media, that will, you know, have their opinion. Don't even go there. Just delete. Not worth your energy. So yeah, it was definitely, it's like, it is. It's just, you've got to believe in yourself.
Yeah, I think that's some great advice there.
Definitely. So Heather is asking, do you have any tips, Simone, on prioritizing time for studying and juggling work, kids and home? You mentioned you had 4 boys, have 4 boys. And how do you stay on track through the harder subjects? And how do you find it best to collaborate with all your peers, other students in the course as well?
Yeah. Like anything, I don't like to use the word balance because I don't think there is a balance in life. You know, if everything's balanced, your kids, your work, studying, it's not going to happen. That's not reality. So how I used to do it is I used to prioritize and got to plan out your week, like to the T. And again, really good practice for design work as well. And I had my study day. So when I was studying and I had assessments due, I knew that my attention, my bucket for studying was going to be full. And my kids or work or whatever, like I forego like my social life because it wasn't a priority to me. So it wasn't balanced. So then when I'd get through my hard subjects, which is a lot of the tech side, you really need to, when you're doing your tech subjects like SketchUp and AutoCAD, you just need to repeat.
Yeah.
I find that when you get to those subjects, block your time off, block it off and be like, I need a week, you know, say to your family, call out for help. If you've got children, can you please take my children because I have to do this? Or you may not have the luxury of that. Tech for them, like just don't feel the guilt on it. You can't have everything balanced in life. It doesn't work. Instead, it's about prioritizing where you need to put your energy, because when you get through these subjects and you've done that study, you know what, that bucket's going to empty for a while and you're going to go fill your kids up or your family, or you'll go catch up with friends. And the thing is, people go, oh my God, I don't know if I can prioritize studying. Honestly, once you start doing it, it's all you actually want to do. Like you're so like in depth and you just want to learn, you're hungry for it. So it's about prioritizing, not trying to balance everything, because in my opinion, balancing, anyone says they're balancing life, I just don't see how it's possible.
Yeah, I think scheduling your studying as your priority at that time is important, you know. So it's like you may be one of those early morning workers and you're like, okay, I'm going to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and spend 2.5 hours before anyone gets up on my studies. And you have your coffee and that is your time just to spend it. Or you could be a late night owl, or you could be a lunchtime warrior where you're lunchtime, I take an hour in the middle of the day to do all my readings. And then when I go home, I'm set up to do my 2 hours of my assessment. So it's just prioritizing and then finding out what works for you.
Yeah, actually, I remember when I was studying, I would have an afternoon session and I would find that if I stopped and then like the next day, it wasn't productive for me. So I would stop, grab something to eat, generally a glass of wine, and then I would get into my creative flow and it was just like organic. I loved it. And then it became a pattern and a routine that just became what I did.
Yeah, so good.
There's a really good question here, and I think a lot of students would love to hear this. I get asked this a lot. What are the biggest hurdles that you faced when designing for commercial and residential properties?
Okay, it's probably not a hurdle. I think it's about knowing your stuff. Like if you call it stuff, your specs. Like one of the things is like knowing your standard heights, your spacings, knowing that just because something looks good isn't practical, knowing the technical side of things. You really need to learn, like I still learn that every job that I work on. So it's really about getting to know what people can think of as the boring stuff, but it is the absolute essentials to make your work practical and come to life. So I would say residential and commercial, the same thing. I think with commercial, you really need to pay a lot more attention to the materials and their use, and, you know, if they're certified for your products. And also in residential, you get to learn to study like DA conditions, and knowing if some materials aren't allowed as well in there, and your basics and things like that. So the technical side of things, I would say, is a hurdle. And if that becomes a hurdle, ask questions, question, because that is the only way that I was able to learn and still learn today.
And people are willing to answer those questions. If you have a question about, oh, is that timber going to be good in that kitchen? You know, you ring up that, you know, veneer supplier, say, hey, I really love this veneer, but is it going to be good in the kitchen or the bathroom? You're like, no, that's not right. You need to use X, Y, and Z. And you're like, oh, great. You know, so those people are more than happy to help you out. No one expects you to know everything straight away. So asking those questions is really important.
Yeah, because you can never be the expert in everything. You are the person who's hungry. Your job as a designer is, whilst you're educated and you've got your knowledge, is to go and find out those things to take. If it's client, they don't need to be spending their time doing that. So don't feel like you've got to know everything, because you never will. Yeah. If you think you do, then you're going to stop being a designer.
Yeah, absolutely.
A question about sample providers, Simone. So during the course, in terms of color ranges and finishes, what would you recommend? Any companies in particular?
Michael, do you want to is there like a company that, I remember for us, we had a mix.
Yeah, so we got a mix as well. So, you know, you're looking at your hard materials, you know, you've got your Polytex, Laminex, we look at range of stones. There's no one in particular that we suggest to use. You know, we've got a great relationship with Hames Paints with colors and things like that. But throughout the entire course, we do try to show you a little bit of everything, and we do try to give you a taste of almost all the materials, all the different brands, and we encourage you as well. In part of the course, we say, go get your collateral. So collect your collateral, build up your own personal library, and then you'll be like, hey, I really love this brand and what they produce here, and that really matches the design direction I want to take it. So then you start work with them a little bit more. So to say, for me to recommend some brands, probably it's going to be limiting to you guys. So I'll probably just say, get out there and just look at your magazines and say, hey, I really like that company, that company, that company. Well, they're going to give you some samples, don't worry, because I want you as designers. Yeah. And then you work out what you want to use.
Yeah, that's because I don't like to say use this brand whilst I may like it or work with it, because you know what, in 6 months' time, I may change my opinion on it. Yeah. What I like to do, and especially when I started out, so say, for example, I was looking at timber flooring, make sure you get 2 different brands, not just 2 different colors from one brand. Get the 2 different brands, so then you can look for the differences. So you learn to pick up when you're saying to a client, you should use this, you can explain why. So it's good to compare between 2, but don't think you're only limited to the 2 of them.
Absolutely. And budget as well, because a lot of it comes down to money. So you also want to show, hey, you can achieve it with this beautiful material, but hey, I found this, which is a little bit cheaper, you know, different quality. What would you suggest? I would suggest this, but I've got this as an option. So it's about, you know, having a knowledge of a wide variety.
Yeah. And never, when it comes to client work, never because you love this flooring and it's like, oh my God, original recycled floor and it's $300 and it's like, it's going to bring it all together. And you know that the client's going to love it, but they're not going to go for it. Don't show them it, because you're going to set yourself up from the beginning. Save that for your sample of things that you just love. You can use that more for your flat lays or for when you do have a client that will use it, because you can really set yourself up in that way.
Absolutely. Smita, I thought I'm just looking at the time, and I was just thinking perhaps, you know, with these questions about the study interior design, that you perhaps run through what we offer at ISCD.
guys. We have some really good questions for Simone.
Oh, yeah. Answer the question. Go for it.
One, I think Nicole has asked here, what's the color for the pause outside? The outside color of the pause.
Yeah, it's Dulux Mount Aspiring. So it's a cool white, but it's not like really stark. So that's where it's quite a dominant property. So I needed a white that wasn't going to blind people, but it also would work with the timber. So yeah, it's actually a New Zealand colour.
Oh.
Yeah.
The last question, what software, so when you showed the floor plan for Seoul Home, what software, that one, yep.
That's SketchUp.
SketchUp
using layout.
Perfect. And that's all we have time for, guys. Sorry, there's so many questions we haven't answered yet.
But I think, Smita, you're going to collect those questions and put it into a document for everyone, and we'll answer them and send them out to everyone, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to put it all in a document. Ashley's going to send it out the next couple of days. But really quickly, for those who are interested in potentially thinking about a course for interior design or decoration, we're just going to go through our courses, our offerings very quickly. So the first off is just comparing the Certificate 4 and the diploma. This is more about course structure, so what to expect in terms of study blocks and assessments. And we have monthly intake. So every Wednesday, the last Wednesday of every month, there'll be an intake. So if you don't make this, we had one this week. Next one is on the 31st of March. The Certificate 4 goes for 12 months. So when we say the duration, 12 months for the Cert 4 and 24 months for the diploma, that's maximum. You can go faster. I know we get asked a lot about whether you can go faster if you wanted to, and you definitely can. We recommend between 10 to 15 hours for the Cert 4 and 15 to 20 for the diploma. If you have more time, 100%, you can go as fast as you like.
Some people speed through it.
Pardon?
Some people are really quick through it, you know. I'm catching up with them.
Yeah, I've heard some people finish within 18 months or so. Is that right? A couple of people finish 6 months earlier. Yeah. So the good thing is online learning, as you probably can guess, it's very, very flexible. So you can study whenever it suits you, lunch break, like Michael said, or after work or on the weekends. In terms of course structure, the Cert 4 and the diploma are very, very similar. They're all broken down into 6-month study blocks. So like here you can see the Cert 4, 2 study blocks, and the diploma on the next page has 4 study blocks. You have a maximum of 6 months to finish 4 subjects, and you can go faster, of course, as well. So Cert 4, speeding through it because I know we're running out of time, is a qualification of an interior decorator. Diploma, interior designer. So the diploma is first year. If you look at the subjects for foundation study blocks 1 and 2, it's essentially the same thing as a Certificate 4. It just goes into AutoCAD, a bit more technical, and hard materials in the second year of the diploma. So we'll go into short courses now. We've got 3 short courses. These aren't accredited. The Cert 4 and the diploma are accredited, the government recognised. They're great for testing the waters. If you're thinking about changing careers, or if it's a hobby for you, or if you have a rental property that you want to spruce up, these ones are great. In addition to that, they're 40% off right now. So instead of $650, they're $390 per course. At the end of each course, you'll have a project. So for Colour Essentials, sponsored by Hames Paint, you'll create your own colour scheme. Surface design, you'll create your own repeat pattern and wallpaper at the end. And styling essentials, you'll create your own mood board, which Simone went through earlier. Mood board different. That's it. If you need more any more questions, if you have any more questions, feel free to contact me. You can always email or text me or call me anytime. I think there's my number on the next page, Michael. Otherwise, or the next page. There you go. That's the one. That's the one. So you can always text me. I'll always give you a ring back. Any questions at all? Thanks so much.
And Smita, it's lovely to talk to. And honestly, if you ask her any questions, she's more than happy to get back to you. And if she doesn't know anything, she'll find out for you straight away. So she's awesome to chat to. I can't hear you, Smita. You're like cutting out.
Thanks. Oh, My mic is apparently sort of playing up. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks, Simone. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I just want to honestly say thank you so much, Simone. It actually has been a pleasure talking to you. And I know it's so amazing to see your success and the way you've taken your journey from ISCD to where you are now. Yeah, so thank you so much. And thank you, Smita, for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And everyone else out there, good luck on your design journey. Honestly, if you take it, the leap of faith, I promise you, you won't look back.
Okay. Bye.